Good morning. Your worship associate for today's UUCC community service is Laurel Frischman. That's me. Welcome, everyone. If you are here for the first time, if you're curious about our faith, or if you've been here before or are a longtime member, welcome. Good to see you today. All are welcome, whether or not you believe in God or a higher source, hold to humanist or secular teachings, if you come from another religion, or if you've always been Unitarian Universalist, you are welcome here. The UUCC community welcomes all people of all skin tones, the LGBTQ plus community, kids and mature folks, those with life challenges, and those temporarily without such challenges. For here, we are working to overcome our society's systemic biases, and you specifically are most welcome here today. The wonderful Reverend Chris Schriner returns to talk with us today on relationships, the good, the bad, and the funny. Reverend Chris says we often learn more from laughter than from lectures, and he draws upon the wisdom of the comics to explore the pleasures and pitfalls of close relationships. Our slideshow explores the kind of relationship that biologists call symbiotic. Symbiotic relationships interconnect two, often quite different organisms. So symbiosis recognizes both the relationship between such organisms and celebrates their differences. We hope you enjoy these images of creaturely cooperation. And after the service today, I hope you will stay on Zoom to join our usual breakout groups that give us a chance to discuss thoughts from today's service. And now, our opening hymn this morning, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, which is number 188 in the UU hymnal, Singing the Living the Tradition. This hymn is beautifully sung by the choir of the FUCO, many of whose members are now part of the Live Oak UU Fellowship in Alameda. So please rise in body and or spirit and add your voice or just listen to this beautiful rendition of Come, Come, Whoever You Are, sung in a round.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, cause is no caravan of despair. Cause is no caravan of leaving, cause is no caravan of despair. Cause is no
Now please join us in reading these chalice lighting words by Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Now, I'll invite us to share our joys and concerns. While the video is playing, feel free to share your joys and concerns using the chat window and to read what is shared there by others. And just to remind you, for upcoming services, if you have a joy or concern that you would specifically like the worship associate to read aloud, please email us prior to the service. One of the ways we create our beloved community is by sharing our own joys and our concerns with one another and finding support from our community. At this time, we invite you to click the chat button at the bottom middle of your Zoom window. That brings up a window in which you can type any joys or concerns. As you do so, we will hear Vera Vandershock play La Grima by Francisco Tárrega. times of reflection and renewal, let us remember that it remains important to reach out to one another when we feel the need, and to accept being reached out to. May we find comfort in knowing that we can share our joys and our concerns here among us. May we hold with love and care the joys and concerns that have been shared publicly today, as well as those that remain in the unspoken in the recesses of our hearts. And now Laurel will introduce our guest speaker.
Our speaker this morning is Reverend Dr. Chris Schriner, Minister Emeritus of Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Fremont. Chris earned a BA from the University of Redlands, a doctorate in religion from Claremont School of Theology, and an MS in family counseling from the University of Laverne. His honors thesis at Redlands examined the ethical thought of theologian Paul Tillich, and his dissertation at Claremont dealt with nuclear weapons policy. In addition to ministry, Chris was a psychotherapist for 25 years. Since retiring from parish ministry, he has turned his attention to philosophy. He is the author of 6 books, including Bridging the God Gap, Finding Common Ground Among Believers, Atheists, and Agnostics. Contact Chris through his email address, which you will find in today's chat. Chris lives in Fremont and is married to Joanne Schriner, a retired music therapist. Joanne's piano music is included in today's service. Chris's sermon today is called Relationships, the Good, the Bad, and the Funny. Welcome, Reverend Chris.
Laurel, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I've been enjoying the service, and I appreciate all of the preparations that have been made by Noreen and several others. One thing you may have noticed recently in the news is there's a lot of commentary about shortages of microchips, lumber, gas, steel, chlorine, and even, I'm not kidding, ketchup packets. So I feel so lucky. I've got 3 of them right here, and I think now my wife Joanne understands finally why I've been keeping these all these years. Well, so a lot of shortages, but there's never a shortage of one thing. There's never a shortage of problems in relationships. At least we can be thankful for that. Now, I admit it would be wonderful if we had somewhat fewer problems and smaller problems, but having some troubles is actually a good thing. Problems can bring out the best in us. Problems challenge us to become stronger, smarter, more caring, and more resourceful. When we're stuck in a frustrating situation with a friend, a relative, or a life partner, that frustration points us toward things we need to learn. So let's talk about the snarls, tangles, and puzzles of love and friendship, and how these can be vehicles for spiritual growth. Spiritual development involves growing out of narcissism and growing into connection with others. And by narcissism, I just mean the very, very human tendency to think, I'm the center of the universe, it's all about me. But from time to time, we make the amazing and perhaps frightening discovery that there really are other people out there. I want to talk about 3 ways that relationship problems can help us grow. First, frictions in relationships remind us to watch for another person's sensitive spots. To illustrate the point, I'm going to quote a comic strip, and in fact, I'm going to draw most of my examples from the funny papers because the comics have a lot to say about the follies and foibles of human interactions. So the first cartoon I'm going to quote is by Alison Bechtel. The 2 people in dialogue in this comic strip are a lesbian couple, but I'm sure both gay and straight couples can identify with various aspects of this conversation. So Mo and Harriet, and Mo begins, Harriet, were you in my files? Oh yeah, I was looking for the phone bill. You looked through my private files without asking me? Well, excuse me. I didn't realize they were classified. Why did you keep them in a safe deposit box if they're so top secret? That's not the point. The point is you didn't ask me first. You weren't here. I just wanted to check on the phone bill. I didn't read any of your precious personal papers. Well, then how do you know I have personal papers in there anyway? Oh, I can't believe this. We've been lovers for 3 years. Surely I can look in your desk for a bill. What's the matter? Are you hiding some awful secret? Maybe. Yeah, you wish. I just think it's important to respect each other's privacy. I might not be interesting to you anymore if you knew every little thing about me. Like, for example, that you've saved all your report cards from kindergarten through college in chronological order. Harriet, did you look at my grades? What's the matter now? Don't you trust me? Yeah, about as far as I can throw you. I think that C- in driver's education deserves an explanation. So have you ever overstepped someone's boundaries the way Harriet did, and then defended yourself by bantering, making a joke out of it, and discounting the other person's rights? Have you ever been in Mo's position, believing you had a legitimate grievance, but running into a smokescreen of rationalizations? Mo hung in there quite well, repeatedly stated her feelings about the situation, but Harriet was hard to reach. Harriet needs to learn that problems in relationships remind us to watch for sensitive spots in those we love. In the second place, relationship conflicts remind us to be flexible, to be less rigid, more willing to compromise, more tolerant of frustration. Flexibility is so important, especially when people find themselves living together after years of living separately on their own. It's not easy to give and bend and share. In one edition of the Kathy comic strip, Kathy says to a friend, "I just want someone to share things with, Charlene." Yeah, me too, Kathy. Except a bathroom. I would never share a bathroom with a man. Or a car. I will always need my own car. No man will ever share my closet, or my TV, or my diary, or my money, or my chocolate, or my soap. I just want someone to share things with that aren't mine, Charlene. Yeah, me too. We do need to be flexible, but how much should a person bend to accommodate a friend or a mate? Well, I'm going to suggest something that may be controversial. When we're trying to compromise, often it's best to accept 30 or 40% and give the other person 60 or 70%. Now, probably some of you are thinking, what? Why should I settle for 30%? Hasn't this guy ever taken assertion training? Well, I believe in assertiveness. And lots of times you can set up a simple 50-50 division. If two people decide to split a dessert, you slice the pie down the middle. I'll cut and you pick. But most compromises, in those situations, it's usually not clear what's 50% or 40% or 30%. And we are much more conscious of what we're giving than we are of our partner's sacrifices, right? So if I think I'm getting 30 or 40% and you got 60 or 70, then that's probably what you're thinking too. If both of us figure we've got 30 or 40%, then we probably both got half. Learning to compromise means being flexible in our expectations. For example, we may expect other people will know how to do things right, meaning our way. In one edition of For Better or For Worse, John and Ellie are straightening up the kitchen. John says, "Should I put on some tea, honey?" Sure, but not in that pot. Oh, and John, putting the plates in the dishwasher, they should be turned this way around. When you're done with the dishes, you could at least wipe off the counter, but not with that cloth. Ellie, I think I'd better let you do all this. Later, we see Elliot talking with her friend Anne. You know, Anne, John is the sweetest man on earth, but for some reason, he just hates to help around the house. Besides sharing our way of doing things, we may also expect people to share our interests. There's a story that may possibly be fictional about the time when Thomas Edison was inventing the electric light. He spent years trying to find the right kind of filament, the right gas, the right kind of container. Finally, one night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, he made the device glow. Edison tore out of his lab, into the house, up the stairs, into the bedroom where his wife was sound asleep. "Darling, look, look," he shouted. Mrs. Edison woke up, rolled over, and pleaded, "Will you shut off that darn light and come to bed?" Just can't count on people sharing our interests and passions. Judith Voyers tells us that even in good relationships, we may have to live with a certain amount of loneliness. She writes that there is nothing my husband can do that will ever get me to share his mania for the Redskins. There's nothing I can do that will make him love the poems of Yeats. People only partly connect, even with their nearest and dearest. In becoming more flexible, we can let go of expecting people to do things our way and expecting them to share our interests. And we can also let go of the idea that our partner can make us happy. Close relationships can give us moments of happiness and enhance the happiness we already possess, but making ourselves happy is our responsibility. The idea that someone can make our lives okay echoes back to childhood, when our parents really did, hopefully, tend to our every need. We felt so good as toddlers when our parents were holding us in their arms, and we want to feel that way again. No wonder popular songs often refer to a lover as baby. But we're not babies, and our partners cannot always act as our parents. In fact, we need to give ourselves consistent and dependable nurturing. And we can lean on sources of strength that spiritual seekers have relied upon for millennia. We may think of that source of strength, of spiritual strength in a variety of ways. We may think of it as coming from God or a higher power of some other sort, or from our own inner resources or from nature. When we receive nurture and support from another human being, in a way that's just icing on the cake. It's scrumptious icing, but it's not the whole cake. So we can become more flexible about how things should be done, about how much others will share our interests, and about relying on others to make us happy. And I want to explore one more idea, and that is that problems in relationships can show us that we're trying to prove a point. Many people focus their whole lives on proving a point about some momentous question, such as, am I good or bad? Am I lovable? Am I going to win or am I going to lose? When people get stuck in, am I good or am I bad, they often decide that the way for me to be good is to make you look bad. Then I'll look like an angel by contrast. And as a bonus, since you're such a bad person, I get to punish you. Punishment is a very popular pastime. People seem to believe that if you punish people enough, they'll eventually just give up and be nice. After a while, the punishment routine becomes so habitual that people continue to scold even when their partner is changing for the better. I've seen that a lot in family counseling. And I'll give you an example of the sort of situation that drives relationship counselors up the wall. Husband and wife are talking, and the husband says for the first time, okay, I've got to admit that when it comes right down to it, I do have a drinking problem. And the wife snaps, yeah, you have a drinking problem. I keep telling you, you're an alcoholic, and you keep denying it. I wish you'd listen to me. Obviously, the wife didn't hear her husband because she was thinking in terms of who's good and who's bad. All she heard was her husband bringing up the topic of alcohol. Didn't notice that he was saying he needed to change. Instead, some mechanism in her brain said, okay, what I do when he mentions alcohol is tell him how bad he is so that he'll become good. And then the old tape recording plays for the 1000th time. So some people focus on who's good and who's bad. Other people get stuck in the issue of, am I lovable? And place the responsibility for judging whether they're lovable on their friends and partners. There was a Sally Ford cartoon in which Sally sat down on the couch beside Ted and she snuggled up to him and said, I feel close to you, Ted. You are close to me, Sal. You're sitting on my hand. Now, if Sally's life project consists of resolving the anxious question of whether she's lovable, that sort of joking or insensitive remark could sting. But if Sally is relatively secure, she can say, well, that was a kind of dumb comment, but I show my love for Ted in some ways. He shows his love for me in other ways. It's still love that we're showing. Besides, am I good or bad, and am I lovable? Another issue is whether we're winning or losing. There was an edition of Rose is Rose, and in this comic strip, it was set up so that in every box of the comic strip, Rose and her mate were thinking or saying exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. So in the first box, we see Rose and her mate sitting on the couch, their arms are folded, and they're looking away from each other. It's obvious they've had a fight and they're pouting. And both of them think at exactly the same time, all right, I give up. In the second box, Rose and her mate turn to each other, face each other, and say in unison, I'm sorry, honey, it was all my fault. Third box, they're sitting on the couch. Now they're hugging each other, but they're looking sour, like they've bitten into a lemon. Both of them are thinking at the same time, another second, and I would have had the whole enchilada. So relationship conflicts can help us move through the narcissistic attitude that our interests are the only legitimate priorities, that everyone else is a projection and reflection of our own desires. Relationship problems remind us to watch for people's sensitive spots, to be flexible about our expectations, and to avoid exaggerating little conflicts by linking them to worries about whether we're winning or losing, lovable or not lovable, good or bad. I want to close with a reading by the Reverend Tom Owen Toll about the difference between making a deal and establishing a covenant. In making a deal, says Tom, the two parties are negotiating from a detached and separated point of view. But in a covenant, we say, we are in this together, and I will treat your interests as being my interests, at least in large part. In a deal, you make promises with your fingers crossed. In a covenant, we make vows toward which we aspire. In a deal, you pay foremost attention to numero uno. In a covenant, we commit to being energetic on one another's behalf. In a deal, you hope to find the right person. In a covenant, our challenge is to be the right person. That sums it up, doesn't it? Our challenge with a friend, a lover, or a spouse is to be the right person. Our challenge in building up Unitarian Universalist congregations is to be the kinds of men and women who can create thriving communities of seekers. And our largest challenge is to be the kinds of citizens who will brighten the future of our planet. So thank goodness we never run out of relationship problems. Problems get our attention and point us in the direction we need to grow. I invite you now to reflect on what aspects of this service have spoken to you as we listen to my very favorite rendition of Wind Beneath My Wings. But then I'm a bit biased because it's my wife, Joanne, at the piano.
It must have been cold there in my name. A beautiful smile to ease my pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I wish I could be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I wish I could be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. You are the wind beneath my wings.
Wow. That's a beautiful song, one of my favorites. Thank you. And thank you, Reverend Chris, for a fun and enlightening sermon. So, as Reverend Chris has so humorously reminded us, relationships are, well, complicated, sometimes easy to live in, and sometimes challenging us to keep a sincere smile on our face. The concept of symbiosis, which was mentioned earlier, is a wonderful notion whereby both parties benefit in some nurturing way and receive a satisfying benefit. Some of the slides you have seen today show some of these types of biological symbiotic relationships. This can translate to human interaction as well. When we lend a hand to someone in need, offer a smile and a kind word to a stranger, and otherwise do a helpful and good deed for another, not only does that person benefit from the kindness and generosity, but the giver often feels an expanding fullness of happiness within for having shared a valued part of themselves. Both parties benefit. And so that UUCC may continue to shine its light on the Coastside community and offer support and service to you, the congregation, let's take a moment now to feel that fullness of happiness by exercising that all-important generosity of spirit with an offering that supports the mission and service of UUCC. For the generosity you display by being present here today, and the generosity of all those who support this community with time, with their talent and their treasure, with trust, we thank you all most profoundly. As your generous spirit moves you today, please feel free to contribute what you can to UUCC, either by check or online. The instructions for giving are in today's order of service. While these collections take place, let us take a few moments to hear from Mo Robinson. Sadly for us, this will be Mo's last service with us, but he has given us permission to reuse any of the 30 songs he so generously recorded for us since our first time broadcasting Zoom services in April 2020. Mo, you will be missed by all of us who have had the pleasure to know you, and please also know that you will be taking our love and appreciation with you when you go. So now, Mo, would you please introduce Naomi?
Thank you very much, Laurel. Thank you for those kind words. Yes, I'm making a personal appearance this morning to bid you all farewell. We're moving to Oregon later in the summer on yet another new adventure. It's been a very interesting experience digging up songs for the various topics for these UUCC services. You know, sometimes the songs are just lying there on the surface waiting to be picked up. Other times they're a lot deeper and you have to do a bit of excavating to find them. And some of my song files are so old, they're almost archaeological in nature. So it's been quite a treasure hunt, very, very enjoyable experience, really. And it's been a great experience overall. And I've got people to thank. I want to thank Noreen. I want to thank Bill, Tom, Bruce, Rob, everybody who has helped me through this process. And I also owe a particular vote of thanks to Shauna, because it was she who recruited me, dragged me into this in the first place. You know, and it's been a lot of fun, really. So thank you all. Today's theme of relationships did present some difficulty for me, but that was only because there is such a mountain of songs about relationships. It was really difficult to sort through them and find something to use. But we've ended up choosing a song written by the young English singer-songwriter Ralph McTell. Well, Ralph is no longer young, but he was young when he wrote the song back in 1976. The song is called Naomi. It's a remarkably mature song for such a young man to have written. There's a lot of wisdom and insight in it, you know, words to live by. So I'm going to leave you with this one. And I wish for all of us that we might enjoy the same love and calm and comfort as the narrator of the song and his Naomi. And finally, I'd just like to wind up with the well-known Irish blessing. You know, I thought I'd give you something from me, right? May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the rain fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand, and may he never close his fist too tight. Okay, goodbye, good luck, God bless. Enjoy Naomi. Thank you.
Age has made her frail. I'm scared to take her in my arms. But there's an understanding now and a peace behind the eyes. Yes, age is for complaining, but you won't hear much from me. Growing old with Naomi. I well recall the first time I held her in my arms. Times I was unfaithful, she said, no future in the past. So we don't talk about it. She keeps a gentle edge on me, and I don't mind growing old with Naomi. She wasn't all I wanted, but she's all I'll ever need. You know, a rich man always wants for more, and I was rich indeed. A rich man and a poor fool, but it turned out right for me, and now I don't mind growing old with Naomi. Ah, the kids today, they think that they've discovered everything. But me and her, we done it all without a wedding ring. And sometimes things remind us when she's smiling back at me, and it ain't hard growing old with Naomi. The house is kinda quiet now, the kids have all left home. We'd like to see more of them, but we're grateful when they come. And in the quietness afterwards, she comes and sits by me, makes me feel like a man growing old with Naomi. wasn't all I wanted, but she's all I'll ever need. You know, a rich man always wants some more, and I was rich indeed. I never thought her beautiful, but I do now, 'cause I see I'm getting wiser, growing old with Naomi. I was a rich man and a poor fool, but it turned out right for me, and now I don't mind growing old with Naomi.
Thank you, Mo, for your voice in that beautiful song and for all your songs. And now for some announcements. We want to thank UU San Mateo for administrative and professional support and allowing us to participate in the recent All Together Now auction. The All Together Now Gala and online auction were a smashing success. Our beloved communities raised over $26,000 to support UUSM and UUCC. UUCC will receive 10% of the result after fees, and the funds will be used to fund a shared pulpit class with Tovis Page and to pay for guest speakers. Congratulations to all of us. We have donated our talents, our money, and our time, and shown just how important our beloved UU communities are to all of us. A special thanks to Tricia Dell, who suggested the idea that UUCC participate and share in the proceeds of UUSM's annual auction. Join us on June 6th as Kai Marks, a UUCC favorite, returns with a sermon that will explore ways to connect with our soul in our everyday lives, and ultimately to discover the best in ourselves and in each other. Our soul is sacred. How do we go about caring for it without feeling as if we've lost or sold it? Now more than ever, we need to nurture a connection with our soul. The sermon is entitled, I'm familiar with the works of Pablo Neruda, The Care and Keeping of Your Soul. For those Bart Simpson fans, you may recognize this line from the Simpson episode in which Bart sells his soul for $5. Wonderful music will be provided by Tom Devine. And now Bill will extinguish the chalice. Bill will guide us as he extinguishes the chalice.
We now extinguish the candle flame. Please join us now in reading these words by Elizabeth Selle Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing hymn is an old favorite, the late Bill Withers' wonderful song, Lean on Me, featuring Shauna Pickett-Gordon, Tom Devine, Linda Grace Frost, and the Mission Peak UUC Choir. Please rise in body and or spirit and add your voice or just listen if you like as we sing hymn 1021, Lean on Me.
Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road, I'll share your load. If you just call me, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on brother when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
Thanks to everyone who contributed to this wonderful and humorous service today. Thank you, Reverend Chris, for your inspirational words and wry humor. We also want to acknowledge our third Sunday production team, UUCC Music Director Tom Devine, and all the wonderful singers and musicians in today's service. Our Chalice Lighter, Bill Hevlin, Artistic Director Noreen Cooper-Hevlin, our Session Management Engineer, Rob Carey. We also want to acknowledge the beautiful music by Joanne Schriner, Vera Vandershock, the First Unitarian Church of Oakland, Live Oak Fellowship Choir, and soloist Becca DeHaan from Mission Peak UUC. And thanks to all of you for participating in this timely service today. Immediately following the service, in a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds, Bill will create some breakout rooms for us, which will serve as a safe place to talk openly and honestly about today's topic or anything else that might be on our minds. Consider it kind of like the post-service coffee hour, but without donuts or coffee. Feel free to bring your own. I hope you'll all join us in these breakout rooms, and please keep in mind that what is said here stays here, but thoughts and concepts we learn and are inspired by can most definitely be shared. Please be thoughtful of the time so that anyone who wishes to speak has the opportunity to do so. Here are some points that we might want to consider in our discussion. Which cartoons or anecdotes in this sermon did you relate with personally, and why? When you want to let people know they've hit one of your sensitive spots, what approaches have you found helpful and constructive? Do you tend to be too flexible, too rigid, or some combination of the two? What helps you find a happy medium? Bill will give everyone permission to unmute themselves and as we join into our breakout rooms. Have a very enjoyable and safe week.